So now we're going to talk about how chemicals get applied into the tunnel. And it all starts with the water supply either from your reclaim system or the city. And that goes down through here. And this water supply feeds into our mixing chamber. Now as water flows through the hydrominder, it creates a vacuum on any kind of open port. And each one of these tips has an open port. And so as water flows through, it pulls chemical through our lines along with it. And then that goes into the mixing chamber where the water and different chemicals that you choose get mixed together. Now we can control how much chemical is pulled along with the water by the different holes in each of the tips. So you could have a large hole and that would pull a lot of chemical, or a tiny little hole and that would obviously pull a lot less. Now, once it's all mixed in the mixing chamber, it just waits and sits there for it to be pumped out into the tunnel. Now, how does it get pumped out? Well, each mixing chamber has a line going into a flojet. And a flojet is a pneumatic pumping device, which basically means it's air-powered. And so we've got an air line going into the flojet, and that gives it its power. And we've got our input line here from the mixing chamber. So the power from the air is able to pull the chemical from the mixing chamber into the flojet, and then it pumps it out through this line, out into the tunnel and into the application. Now, if we follow this air line, probably can't see it down here, but it comes up through here and into this gauge, and this gauge is called an air regulator. And an air regulator's job is to control how much air pressure the flojet is going to receive. And I think it's anywhere from about 20 to 90 psi. So for something light, we can adjust the regulator and turn this knob, and that will control if we want a really light amount of air to go to the flojet, or we can turn it up and ramp it up for a different kind of application. So maybe you have a question of how does the flojet know when to turn on and off? Well, that's done through tunnel watch. Tunnel watch, if you can see this cable here, sends an electrical signal to what we call a solenoid. And a solenoid is basically a valve that can open and close through an electrical impulse. So tunnel watch sends that electrical impulse to the solenoid, and it opens a valve which then lets air through this line to the air regulator, where it gets adjusted to whatever pressure we have it set to, down to the flojet, where it pumps out, pulls it from the mixing chamber and pumps it out into the tunnel. Now, if you do that enough times, your mixing chamber is going to get low on chemical and water, and it's going to need to refill itself. So each mixing chamber is going to have a float inside of it. And if you can see this chain, at the end of that chain is a weight that floats and matches the level of whatever chemical you have in there. So as the chemical line drops, so does the float. The float will drop with it. And if the level in the mixing chamber gets low enough, it'll pull this chain so far, if you can see this chain right here, that it opens a valve up here. So as it drops down, the chain falls with it, and it will pull a valve open. And the valve will open up the water supply that you have, that'll go back into the mixing chamber and start the pull process all over again. So then that will refill your mixing chamber. And when the level gets high enough, the chain will get high enough that it will shut the valve off. And that's kind of how that whole process works.